It says, whoops, it's not approved for live. Okay, go live anyway. Remove LinkedIn. I hate that LinkedIn didn't give me. All right, I think we're live. I'm going to go on and check it out. Give me a second here. Oh, yeah, we're on. This is awesome. All right, well, I am here with Michelle Berman of Berman Media. And I always get this because like it's Michelle McKell on one and Michelle Berman. So walk me through that.
So I'm now married. So my married name is Michael. So that's why it's Michelle Michael. And then my maiden name and the name of my company is Berman. So that's where that comes from.
So awesome. Did you see how I try to make it like McKell and it's Michael?
I like the McKell. It's a little fancier. Like I feel like
it's a little fancy.
Something, I don't know.
This is awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you did this with me. I'm really excited because a couple of things are happening this week. This is like your week. So I've been really promoting the fact that we launched our official full hour-long podcast this morning on Apple and Spotify. And so if you just go to scroll down on my page, you'll find the links to that. And then we also wanted to do this because I figured, what a really great way to not only get the message out on what you do and how you help people, but the fact that you have a really amazing story to tell. And if people are interested after they watch this, then maybe it'll really drive them to check out the full podcast as well. And then potentially maybe even hire you to help. So my goal is to help you get some business. And so this is really cool. So let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about what you do and how you've helped some people with social media, because, in my business, and I'm in a mortgage business, and there's a lot of realtors and mortgage folks that might even see this live broadcast or the replay of it, and that are really having a hard time leaning into this space and building their personal brand. And you came up with this amazing curriculum, which I've bought into, and I'm a customer and a subscriber to it, on really getting, really you're helping people on how to build content. So talk to us a little bit about what you do and what this curriculum you built is.
Yeah. So first of all, I appreciate all of what you just said, Chris. Thank you so much for just the warm welcome and always being so excited to have me on. It's an absolute pleasure, and I love getting to do this. So thank you, first of all, to you. Now, as far as the Instagram Power Method, this is my brainchild, if you will. And to me, it's one of those things that a lot of people in the Instagram space or in the coaching space, they try to do too quickly. And I'll say this in a unique way if I can, but they're creating courses and they're expecting people to pay for a program that is very run in the mill. It's very 101. It's like tutorials, and everybody wants things that are just give it to me so I can just plug and play it and not think about it. And I struggle with that. And I know you're in the course so I know you see it. And I say that because the way that I teach the Instagram and the program behind the Instagram Power Method is to empower every single person listening to this that's in the course or is considering the course, how to actually live, eat, breathe, sleep your brand. And I'm not just talking about on social media. I'm talking about when you're walking around and you're having conversations, you're going to get coffee, and you're potentially running into someone who might want to buy a house, or might be looking to make a connection that they didn't even know that they were in there for. Like, how many times have you and I, Chris, ever gone anywhere and been like, oh my God, I ran into this person today. And it's so cool that we talked for an hour and hadn't seen him in years, or like never even knew that he knew my person. Or the other day I went into a coffee shop and someone recognized me from Instagram, and I was like, that is cool. So my course in the Instagram Power Method, I'll give you some, basics. It's 75 videos in total. So we're not talking a handful of little videos here, videos there. We're talking 75 videos of hardcore curriculum that is really going to push you to understand who you are and what you really want to serve, or what you really want to give in the form of serving to your audience or to your ideal client. And two, it's really going to teach you how to create connection. And the millennial generation, Gen Z, even our parents, right? I don't know how old your parents are, Chris, but mine are in their early 60s, and they crave connection so much. Even when they're older, right? They go to social platforms for that if they're going to. My parents, connecting with people that they went to high school with, and wanting to have those relationships. So the course itself is a total of 75 videos. It's 18 handouts. Every single one of those handouts is a printable PDF. That's a homework assignment, if you will. You really have to put time and effort into it. And we have a coaching program that's associated to that allows people to get the accountability that they really need in order to make sure they're moving through the program, and to get the guidance and support that they're lacking in most other places. You go to a CE class or you go to a social media class at your broker's office or whatever, and you just feel disconnected from it, and you leave and you're like, that didn't really teach me anything, but like, now what? And I aim to, with my program, solve all of that.
Well, so this is really good, right? So I want to take it. We're going to step by step this, and we have 30 minutes, so this will be really good. But, and I'm going to try not to steal a lot of the thunder that they're going to get as they go through it. But I think this is really important because the social media game isn't just you creating content, right? So, and I think that's a big misconception, right? And that's where people get like paralyzed about the next steps. And I posted something, I'm not getting any business, but I think you get back and really understand what brand is. So how do you help somebody really out? And let's use me for an example, right? If you were going to help me as an individual who is trying to build my brand in the local Gilbert, East Valley, Arizona market, what are some of the things that I should be doing from a social media perspective to start to build that brand? And how do you walk me through that process?
So this is my favorite thing to figure out, right? And I usually do what I call a whiteboard meeting with either if you're a student or if you're a VIP member of our course. So what a whiteboard meeting really is it allows me to let you just talk to me about your business. I call it word vomiting because it's just funny, but I just let them give it all to me. Tell me everything that you can tell me about your business. Tell me about what kind of clients you really like working with. Tell me about the types of people who you're just like, ugh, I don't want to do anything with that, which is important, right? And then I also really want to understand, and we'll use you as an example, Chris, of where do you spend your time outside of your industry to generate business? Are you a golfer? Do you like going and riding motorbikes? Do you like, I'm a coffee snob myself, so I go to a lot of coffee shops all the time. Right. And for you, as the person who we're talking about here, the question would be, where do you spend time to earn business? Or where do you and your family spend time? Does your wife go to Orange Theory all the time and get a lot of referrals out of that? Like, where does the lead generation come from or maybe originate? And once we've identified that, we then get to go into now figuring out strategy of how do we live where those ideal types of people might be on social media.
This is really good.
Yeah.
This is really good. Not to interrupt you. I want to add to that. I want to add this piece. You talk about like, where do you exist outside of your normal day-to-day, right? So it's so funny. There's a guy that he's my boss, and he's developed a playbook as well for helping loan officers really build their brand. But one of the things he talks about is your third place, right? So you're at home is your first place, you're at work is your second place, but what is your third place? And for some people, it's the bar. Some people, it's the gym. Some people, it's the coffee shop. But whatever that third place is, how do you generate business out of those places? And how can you help, right? And I'm going to give you an example because I think that this is really good piece of the conversation. And then I'm curious about your feedback. But I, too, do CrossFitting the way that you do. And I remember I had this great idea that I was going to buy everyone in the gym a water bottle, like a really nice, hard, the ones that keep your water like cold for 10 hours or something. And I bought everybody at said Loan Depot, put my card on there, and put a poster up that said, if anybody wants to do a deal, just call me and I'll give you a discount. Nothing. Everybody used the water bottles because I saw them everywhere, but I got no business. And then I started buying water, like the actual water bottles, because they never had water in there. And I started buying them and delivering them, and again, no business. And then I started like meeting more people. And then finally somebody gave me a deal. And then whenever I wasn't around, I guess that person told the next person, and then it got through, and I did everyone's deal, but it took like a year, everybody's deal out of that gym. But I got everybody. I'm not kidding. Like every person that did the transaction did it through me. And to this day, I'm not going to the gym anymore because I just ended up doing it at my house. Like I built a rig in there. And so I'm not doing it at the gym because of COVID. And so, but that to me was like, I had to figure out a way that if I'm going to spend an hour a day in this gym, people need to know what I do, and I got to be able to help them, because it's going to crush me when I find out that they went to some other mortgage company when I could have helped them in a better, in a better way that somebody else could have. So is that the same process that you're talking about and helping people through and figuring out how to really leverage that second or that third, place?
Absolutely. And that's an incredible story. And it's it's a aspect to this. And I'm going to say it, I'm going to say this way. People might yell at me for saying this, but this is not I posted my first post and all of a sudden I got 10 leads.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't happen like that.
It doesn't happen.
What does happen is we create a culture around who we are, and we create this aspect of I'm top of mind all the time. I'm always showing up. I'm nurturing my business, right? And in this case, you bought everybody a water bottle that they use, which means they saw you, right? But it took them either building a relationship with you, feeling connected to you. Maybe they were following you or friends with you on Facebook, and they saw you enough times where they then said, I not only like Chris, I don't just know him, right? But I actually now like him. And on top of it, based off of what I've consumed now, and again, most of this is subliminal. They don't even know that this is happening in their heads, right? But they see the rest of your content. They see your Facebook lives. They see your work that you're doing for the loan industry. And then they start to recognize the fact that they trust you with their money. And that's how this happens. So, I spoke with a client this morning on a coaching call who is really big into like community service, and she does a lot of nonprofit stuff, but she's a real estate agent. She had her biggest month of her career ever this month, ever, in almost 10 years of being an agent. And I asked her, I said, Nancy, what did you do? Why did that happen? And she goes, because I trusted that I could get business out of things that I love. And I was like, okay, keep going, right? She has Great Danes. So she does a lot of stuff with Great Dane rescue facilities here. She does a lot of dog, I don't want to say dog community service, but a lot of nonprofits that specialize in rehabilitating dogs and getting dogs homes. And I was like, okay, so now if we want to level this up to the next step, how do we do that? The answer is we start following a bunch of nonprofits on Instagram. We start following a bunch of local businesses that are veteran owned, because she's also a veteran herself. We add them to our close friends list, and everybody hopefully knows how to do that. But if not, I can show you how to do that. But add them to your close friends list, and then turn your post notifications on. So anytime any one of those people or pages post, you're going to get a notification. You're going to open it. You're going to comment on it. You're going to like it. And then guess what? The next time you go to that place, you're going to tag them. You're going to share them in your stories. Hopefully they reshare you. And then this nurture process has now begun. The next thing you know, they could reach out to you via DM and be like, hey, we have an event coming up on Saturday. I know you're here all the time, or you've been such a huge support. Would you come be, like our realtor vendor for the event? Magic.
Huge deal. And it's like the hardest part is knowing how to do that, because you spouted it off really quickly, like boom, 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 boom. And for me, it like, I'll tell you, my hardest thing is really, it's not building content. Luckily, like I'm actually like, I have a good process for that. I'll get on video, say what I want to say, text it to my assistant. Some people outsource it to a company, and then boom, it gets texted back to me a few hours later, and I'm ready to go. I could post. The hardest piece for me is posting and the ad copy, right? Is like the emojis and going live today, whatever, right? Like that's, to me, is the hardest most difficult piece of this entire process. But for somebody else, it's super easy. Like that could be like, but it's the mechanics. And so do you walk people through, like, do you legit show them, you're going to press this button on your phone, you're going to do this, this is how you're going to, like, do you do that? And even give them feedback on, like, I'll give you an example. If you go through my Instagram, you'll see videos where that, like, it was scaled really badly because I didn't know you could push that little button on the bottom and it like fits the page better. So do you show people all those little techniques on how to get better videos and how to post on Instagram? Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. So although we would be considered what I call like the Rolls Royce really of the Instagram courses of the world, there's a Walmart aspect to it in the sense of like, and that sounds really weird, but you know what I mean, in the sense of there are pieces in the course that are meant to walk you through. I've never used social media before. I need help, right? So there's tutorial videos. Again, our coaching part of it that's attached to the course is a crap ton of screen sharing and a lot of hands-on stuff, specifically when it comes to that. We use Canva, which is our primary source for graphics or creation of content for our templates. And there's a lot of people that struggle with Canva. And we walk them through every single piece of that, all the way from how do I even change the background color, right? Something as simple as that. Now, on top of it,
by the way, Canva is, for those of you that don't know, it's a free source, and it's amazing to be able to use Canva to create graphics like that.
Yep. And I walk them through how to, one, create a brand palette that actually matches their personality, not necessarily the company that they work for, which is important to understand, right? Because especially, and I'll use both loan officers and realtors here, right? We tend to traditionally kind of move around a little bit. And when that happens, the problem is whatever company you work for, if you create all of your branding around, let's say, Loan Depot, I'm going to use that as an example, right? Which is like the purple and the green. What happens if you move to somewhere else and now all of a sudden all of your branding has to get redone? So instead of doing that, what I coach people to do is give credit where credit's due, which is of course the brokerage or the company that you work for. However, your branding has to match who you are and your personality. Now I'll tell you why, because number one, you're more invested in your content. If you're in love with the palette and the content that, or the coloring, that you created for your content, you're more invested in it, which means you will do it more. You will have more of a creative play in your content. You'll actually want to do it. The consistency will happen, all of that. On top of it, you will feel like you have the creative freedom to make things the way you want to. So therefore, you won't feel like social media is a job.
There you go. I mean, that's really it. But I'm gonna combat that a little bit. Is that it is job, it is work. If you want to build your brand and you want to be out there, like there's a fun aspect and there's a creative aspect to this. But in my opinion, you're building your brand. This is advertising. This is marketing, and this is like it needs to be taken. Like it is a piece of your, like a strategy that you would implement with your job. Do you work with a lot of loan officers, or you've worked with loan officers before? Do you find that loan officers have, because of a really regulated industry, do you find that they get stuck with, well, my company won't let me do that? Do you hear that a lot? Yeah.
And the answer to that is always, here's one of my things, and maybe this is bad of me to say right now, but if it isn't,
please be as candid as possible on this.
So a lot of loan companies in general are stuck in the Stone Age, right? We live in 2020. Yeah. Let's adapt. And if your loan officers are not allowed to use social media to promote their business, you shouldn't be working for that company, period.
I agree.
That's not the world that we live in. And if there are rules and regulations to make sure that you are compliant, I'm all for that. I'm all for not having any issues with, getting a fine, right? I don't want that for any of my students or for any of my clients, but we internally created a footer that's universal. So you can actually just edit the NMLS number, edit your company name, and the rest of it is equal housing and all of that stuff that you have to have. Now, there are also ways to make sure, again, you give credit where credit's due on your content. So you have Loan Depot, in this case for you, Chris, you would have them at the bottom, right, in their branding. or in their colors on there, if you will. But the rest of it is who's Chris. And maybe you love, purple and green, and that's great. Purple, green, and gray. We'll go with that. And if that's the case, awesome. That's the best of both worlds, right? And I also know you really love Loan Depot, so that's amazing. But in general, the compliance issue becomes I'm going to just not try because they won't let me, and it becomes an excuse. And in my opinion, that's a really bad excuse, because if your company is that hard to work with when it comes to creating your own individual brand and they're holding you back from being able to do that, find a new company.
I totally agree. And I also want to help people who don't work at Loan Depot. And by the way, my wife just posted, thank you, Tracy, for that. So awesome. I'm going to leave that up there. But I do agree with that. Work for a company that really supports your social media growth. And I do believe that we're one of the few companies that really embrace this. And we're not the only one, but there are companies, but there's ways around it. So part of why, that people get on social media is to build your personal brand. And so there's a way to do that without impacting your NMLS ID, meaning I don't have to always talk about mortgages. In fact, I very rarely talk about mortgages. So you don't care what my rates are today, because as far as social media is concerned, they're always the lowest and anybody else is going to be able to compete with, right? Because that's what we say, lowest rates. That's what every LO always talks about. But it doesn't give me a chance to really understand a loan officer with, knowing what your product is. And you and I talked in depth about this on our on the podcast about, people want to get to know you through your stories versus just your product. And so I totally agree with you that, if your company, and loan officers that may watch this, if your company's giving you a really hard time with the content in your posting, flip the script. Don't talk about mortgages. Talk about a client that you helped, and you never even have to mention rate in those kind of situations, which is really what triggers a lot of the marketing, people to get, and compliance folks to get really concerned about what you're posting. But I totally agree with you on the sense that I think you have to be able to get in the social media game. And if you're not able to, then you might be doing something, with the wrong company.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to piggyback off of that and tell you, and again, you may be in the early stages of the course, but we have talked about this on the podcast too, in the way that the content calendar is set up and the way that I teach Instagram and the way that I teach creating content is that if you have a 30-day content calendar, almost or more than half in this case, 50% of them are lifestyle images. So it's you being you. It's you and Tracy, right, on date night, finally without the kids. Or it's you guys going to your favorite, park with your kids. Like you go to Disneyland finally now that they're open. Like it's just behind the scenes of who is Chris and his wife? Like, how do we feel connected to Chris? Chris working out in the garage, like those sorts of things. And then the other 15 of your posts out of the 30 are broken down into what I call your pillar content. So you have your value series day, which is your not what is a loan, but instead what kind of story can I tell about somebody who I've helped go through this loan process? AKA there's our story aspect. And then your testimonials, which is the best form of social proof you could ever promote. And then the third type of pillar content, in this case for you, Chris, is your podcast. Right. So it's clips of your podcast showcasing your authority without asking for business. Right?
So awesome.
Podcasts don't ask for business at all. Right. If you're a loan officer and you don't run a podcast and you're listening to this, your third type of pillar content could be vendor spotlights or realtor spotlights. Right. So you're shouting out realtors that you work with. You're shouting out the vendor partners that you love doing business with, and you're giving love to your community. And that's what other people are going to want to know in order for them to want to hire you or give you their business, right? If you're looking to generate realtors, then showcasing a bunch of realtors you work with and giving them some love and showcasing some of their listings, that's a surefire way to make sure people are like, how do I get that? Right?
Yes.
But there's only 2 pieces of content out of your entire content calendar, which equals a total of 10 days out of your 30 where you're actually asking for business. So that's a third of your month. the rest of it is value and free information. And how do I feel connected to Chris?
Well, that's amazing, because I very rarely do an ask. So if anything, like I'm way behind the 8 ball on that, because my whole thing is I just want you to get to know me, because eventually I'm going to call you and hopefully you'll take my call, because maybe you saw a piece of my content somewhere and it resonated. But one of the things that I talked to you about when we first met, and I made this comment to you, I said, it was over the phone, and I said, I am willing to bet that no matter how much social media I do, I'm not going to get people calling me, telling me they want to work for me. And you were like, BS. We can help you with that. Like, I'll help you get the phone to ring. And just being consistent. And again, I'm not even following the calendar yet. But just being consistent and making sure that I'm posting and staying in front of it, I started getting phone calls. In fact, I had 2 interviews this last week with people who were like, hey, I keep seeing your stuff. I'm getting crushed where I'm at. None of my files are moving. How can you help me? Because I saw the other day you guys were doing, and I was like, this is really cool. This is really, finally, I'm starting to see, that traction on it. And so I got to say, one of the things that I'll add to it is that just to reiterate, you're not going to get a deal by making one post. And I've been doing this for a long time, and it's just now starting to get, people, it's starting to resonate with somebody. Because if somebody sees my post today, they may not be ready to do a mortgage, or they may not be ready to make a move from another company. But I stay in front of them, and I offer value and value and value and something to think about. Eventually, they may say, I kind of know that guy, I'm going to go and work for him.
Or they're going to go home to their wives or husbands and be like, dude, I'm having the worst day ever, and I just feel like I really need to leave this company. And who's the first place that you want to pop up in their brain when they're having that conversation? And it's going to be, hey, this guy, I see him on Facebook all the time. I can't remember his name, but he's always doing Facebook Lives. Yeah. That's the conversation that's going to happen. And I'm going to throw you under the bus in a good way here, Chris, of you haven't even scratched the surface, right? Of learning how to actually do the engagement correctly and learning how to be strategic in your effort on social media. Up to this point, you've been kind of trying to invent the wheel the whole time.
Yes, 100%.
Instead of walking the walk of somebody who, I've built my entire company and my entire business as a whole, or a career as a whole, off of crushing it in my DMs on Instagram. That's how I've gained up to this point now, where 90% of my business, other than my organic traffic that I get anyway, through Instagram and Facebook and all of that, is people saying, you need to work with Michelle, or, hey, someone so-and-so works with you. They referred me over to you. Can you help me? I get those emails every single day. Right. But again, that took me 6 years to get to. November 9th is 6 years in business for me,
So I'm curious about this, because you're crushing deals in your DMs. And so, you and I met, we talked, I was like, we're going to do this. And for reasons. Number one, I wanted to, Instagram isn't my thing. So I was like, this is really going to help me lean into the Instagram. And then I also have a side hustle with some properties that are Airbnbs that I was like, that's a really easy Instagrammable business that we should really be leaning into. And so that we can really, figure this out from an Instagram perspective. And so you were like, then I was already committed, but I hadn't put the credit card down. And it was for no other reason than my ADD kept kicking in every time I was about to reach for my wallet and figure out, like, well, how do I do this? Like, do I got to put it in my computer? Anyway, so all that kept coming. There was breaks in that process for me in my head, and you weren't letting it up. You were following up. So let's talk about the follow up, because you were so good at that. That was a long-winded way of me saying you were so good at the follow-up on this that it was impressive to me that you were like, hey guys, cool. We're going to do this podcast and everything, but we're going to do this or not. And you pushed on it a little bit. And I think that a lot of that's happening for you in your DMs. So do you use a CRM for that? How do you know that you got to go back to 5 people that, I won't say the person, but you had mentioned to me like, I've been talking to this person for like a year. They haven't committed yet. Right. So like, how do you know about those people? Is it just a mental thing? You work in a CRM. How do you keep track of that to know that you got to go back to people?
I'm kind of an elephant. It's weird. Like
I
just remember names very, very well. I remember scenarios. I remember how I met you, all of that. And my husband's like, how do you even remember that? Like half the time. And it's just who I am. It's just the personality that I have. And I think part of it too is back 6 years ago when I was building Berman Media and had to hustle my booty off, you have to be good at that in order to get the deal. And for me now, it's not so much about that. It's more so when I have the connection, I don't let go of the connection unless there's a reason to let go of the connection. And I'm going to do something cool here and back up how you and I met, Chris, because I think that this is really important. So back when I first met one of my favorite people in the world, one of my best mentors, the person who I can't wait to hug him in real life and tell him how amazing he's been for me and for my business, is Phil Treadwell. And most people in the mortgage industry know who Phil Treadwell is. And he's one of those guys who I called him, and I was this 25-year-old girl who had just started a business, didn't know at all what I was doing. And fast forward 5 years later, I'm now 30, right? And have a very successful business. But in that process, Phil told me, the number one thing he told me, he said, Michelle, get on as many podcasts as you can and do it for free and give your value away. And the right people will pay for it. And that phrase, the quote, the verbiage, all of it has stuck with me for such a long time. And when I had that conversation with Phil, I then put it into play and I started DMing people asking, hey, this is what I do. This is the unique thing about me. I would love it if I could have the opportunity to speak on your podcast if you'd be willing. And at the beginning, I got mostly no's. It was hard because I didn't have anybody no notoriety to be able to say I am who I say I am. So I had to grind, right? And lots of people said no to me. And then a couple started saying yes. And then a couple more started saying yes. And then I started being able to say, if you want to hear more about who I am or what I've done, check out Jeff Simfer or check out my podcast with Phil Treadwell. Or in this case, I was just on the National Real Estate Post with Frank and Kian. So go listen to that. And all of a sudden I had some pretty big names to back me up to try to get on some other ones. So again, my wheel started spinning, right? And I started gaining a lot of momentum. The domino effect happens. Chad Anderson, I came across Chad, right? And sent him a DM. He said, yes, you saw me on Chad's podcast, right? So when it comes to staying in front of your people, and, I'm going to throw my own self under the bus in this one. I use a planner. I still am a planner person. I've always been a planner person. I like pen and paper. I like writing to-do lists. I love highlighters. But my assistant, Sarah, who's my favorite person in the world, aside from my husband, she has forced me to learn to love and lean into Google Sheets and share documents and all of that. So we have systems in place now where I have a CRM on a Google Sheet. So it's not an actual CRM. But I put anybody I talk to, I put in there, I put how I met them, I put how many times I've talked to them or what the last conversation was. And then Sarah jumps in on days when she can, and she follows up with them if I haven't already done it.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, but that's the key thing is everybody has to have, whether it's a mental system or a Google Sheet or CRM, the only way to make this happen, in my opinion, is by a follow-up, but having a mechanism of follow-up in your system. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I have, most of you guys might not know this, but I use Active Campaign as my CRM for like my emails and my funnels and all of that.
Yep.
And it has all of my contacts in it. So we have an email list of like a little over 2,000 people now. And all of those people, based off of where they fall in how they came across me, how they met me, whether they met me through my master class or whether they met me through a class I teach in person, they get added to the funnel that is correct to them. And then all of that email infrastructure is built out. So if you guys get emails from me, it's either been written instantaneously or like this Facebook Live that we're doing, I'm going to share this to my email list after we get off the call, right? So it's like, hey guys, this is how you can stay in front, or how I can stay in front of you. But hey, this is how my population or the people that I am trying to earn business from can feel more validated by giving me, as you said, giving me their credit card.
So you own a business. You're successful. I think we had talked about it the last time. You're like up hundreds of % from where you were pre-COVID, and you're everywhere. Like you're on so many. You're doing this with me, and so how much of that comes from your ability to follow up? And it's probably, in my opinion, like it's second nature to you.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of people, it's hard. It's a really hard ask to do the follow up. And do you believe that that's made a big difference in your business, in terms of your conversion from having a conversation with somebody to them putting their credit card down and buying your product? Was your conversion impacted by your ability to follow up?
I mean, that's a no-brainer. Yes, absolutely. Like, and I think the number one thing, this is going to be, I know the last time we talked, you kind of talked about my story and how I came to be, and the failure aspect of some of the things that I've done over the last 6 years. And one of those things I will tell you is it's a mindset growth, or there's a growth mindset that has to happen. And in that mindset has to be, I'm okay with failing, and I'm also okay with being rejected. And I will tell you, as a business owner, that there are times when, even still today, I feel rejected from people. And I feel like people are saying, you're not worthy of my money. And I get those emails, right? And that's okay. But I can tell you that where my biggest change or shift was in my mentality of, I know how good my product is. I know that my product works, and I eat, breathe, sleep, all of it, 100% the Instagram Power Method, because I personally walk that walk. So when it comes to me selling something and me wanting to follow up, it's because my mindset is, I know that this works, and I know that if you do it, it will work for you too. If that makes sense.
That's 100% it. I mean, this is why I love what I do, because I know that once I meet somebody and I get to know them, once I get that connection, and I'm like, I know how to help you, and I can take you, and there's nobody better than me that take you from here to here. And I know that. I taste it. I feel it. And then there's people that I meet with that I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to help them. Their business is different. It's not my wheelhouse, and I don't think it's a good idea. And so really, but at the end of the day, once I get to know somebody, then there's that chase that happens where I feel like they got to give me a shot here to help them, because I believe in what I'm doing, and I know that I can help them better than where they're at. And I had an LO tell me one time, he had come from the car industry into mortgage, and he said, the reason that I'm so good at this is because I know how numbers work, and I know how customers want their numbers to be presented to them, because I do it in a car industry every day, and I do it in mass. And I started listening to how mortgage people did it, and it's so backwards. Like, people don't care about all this stuff. Just tell them what their payment is, tell them how much out of pocket they have to be in, and tell them how long it's going to take and what their payment is going to be. And that's all they care about.
Yep.
And he goes, and when I dumbed it down like that, my business exploded, and there's nobody better for a customer to talk to than me. And so when you have that sort of confidence, you just know that it's so much easier to have that conversation. But we are in a rejection game. And for every yes I get, there's 10 go pound sands that I get. And so
that'll ever change
it'll never change, right? That's the game. But we're in a rejection game. I mean, for me, it works something like this. I make the call, and they tell me to go pound sand. Right? And usually it's always the first call. And then I get mad. I'm like, oh, I'm going to call somebody else, and I'm going to win. Like, now because I can't let my day end on a loss, right? So now it's like, I may have to make 10 calls now, whereas I'm trying to just get 2 appointments really quickly. So for you, how do you convince yourself? How do you psych yourself up for that rejection?
Yeah, can you hear me, Chris? I feel like I lost. Okay.
No, I can hear you.
Sorry, I thought my audio cut out, and I was like, oh no. So couple things. I know in the podcast episode when we talked, I've been an athlete literally my entire life. So the day that I could pretty much walk and put my arms over my head, my parents threw me in a pool. So I have been an athlete my entire life, and I genuinely attribute my success today to my athletic career. I 100% wholeheartedly believe that. And I can't wait to have kids to be able to have them experience having the sports aspect of things and what that's going to do for them in the long term. And I literally have the goosebumps saying this because it's so true. But in athleticism or in athletics, right, we fail a lot. We lose games. I was a swimmer, so I lost races. I had bad races where I was like, I don't even know who that girl was in the water because that wasn't me. And that happens. And I think your ability to mentally overcome knowing that or having faith that that was not a defining moment in who I am, that's what changes. And it starts in between your ears, because I know plenty of athletes in my life, and I know you probably met them at the CrossFit gym and other places. And those of you guys who heard our podcast know, I was a competitive CrossFitter at a very high level for almost 6 years and was on a team that would have gone to the games had they not taken regionals away that year. And there was a lot that goes into that where you get beat up and you do terrible. And there were days where I walked out of the gym sobbing my eyes out. And I'm like, I'm not even being paid to do this. Why am I walking out of here like this? But it's in those failure moments where, for me, I'm a big believer in faith, and I'm a big believer in grounding ourselves in something that we know we can count on. And for me, that's my faith. And for me, that's saying God's got my back. So if he is going to give me all of this bad, I know that it's because there's something on the other side coming. I just haven't figured it out yet. And with my business, it's the same thing, right? If 4 or 5 people say no, that's okay, because God's basically telling me that those 4 or 5 people are not ready for me yet, or I'm not ready to take care of them yet, because he wants me to focus on this person, right? And you're an example of a team that I have now started working with. I know our good friend Chad Anderson, right? His entire team is now part of the Instagram Power Method program.
Nice. That's so awesome.
All of them, and that's so awesome, because and in that process, I feel like I had to fail multiple times, right? You have to have enough people say no to you before your eyes get open to what's your real purpose here. And I believe meeting Chad led to that. I believe me meeting you all happened purposefully, that then led back to, I now get to work with Chad and your team as well here in Arizona. That's what I want.
So awesome. But it's truly, you put it very well. You started off with, it all starts with what's going on between your ears, right? And there's a mental thing that happens with everybody that can paralyze you or can catapult you. And it's always your decision on which route you're going to take and how you look at it. And so I got to say, it's cool talking to you, because I have a lot more questions, but we're really at time, and I didn't realize how much over I was. Couple things I want to ask you before we bounce. Tell me who you don't have to tell me names if you don't want, but tell me about a client that you have or have had that you really just catapulted and helped them. And I'd love to hear that story. And what industry are they in?
I'll use her name because 1, I just love her to death. And 2, I think I'll use 2 names. And both of these girls are local here, so most people might know them. But the first one is Kara Beecroft. And if any of you guys are familiar with her on Instagram, it's KB Sells AZ. And she's going to laugh at me for the shout out. She's probably going to text me and be like, why do I have 15 new followers, all from Lone Depot? Awesome. Because that's probably going to happen, but that's cool. So when I first met Kara, she had barely had her license for, I don't even know how many months. It was fresh off the boat. She had just done her very first deal ever. And it was like a $70,000 deal. And she's a real estate agent. So every realtor listening is like, so she made 4 cents. It was a very small deal, and she was really excited, but at the same time, she's such a go-getter. And in that moment, I could see the fire in her, and I could see the fact that she needed the guidance and somebody to have confidence in her to say, you can do more than that. right? And I don't attribute her success in any way, shape, or form to me entirely by any means. Absolutely not. She's on the Blake Clark team, and I'm absolutely love Blake Clark and that entire team. But Kara, fast forward to today, I shouldn't say today, fast forward to January 1st of 2020, when I asked her what her goal was for the year. And I said, how many houses are you going to sell this year, Kara? She said, I'm going to sell 24. And I said, okay, girl, let's do it. And I knew social media was going to be a big part of her game. She had joined the Instagram Power Method in October of last year. And as of like early July, she was on track to be closer to 36. And
wow.
I literally, like, I could not be more proud of this woman, because she dove all the way in, and she said, I'm going to use stories even though I don't like the way I look on camera most of the time. I'm going to record videos even though I don't like the sound of my own voice all the time. I'm going to showcase the behind the scenes of my son and my life with with my two boys, regardless of the fact that that could feel weird initially, right? And she's just going to lean into it all the way. And this girl, I cannot tell you, I have gotten so many freaking screenshots of DM leads that she's gotten. Like, I can't even keep track of it. Like, I need a folder for Kara B. Croft. Like, dead serious.
Yes.
So KB Sells AZ on Instagram. She's my shining star example of somebody who has seen in a year of being in the real estate industry what social media can do for her business. Now, the second person I'll use is Carla McGee. She's a commercial real estate agent with Grace Commercial here locally. It's a boutique brokerage. Carla was petrified of social media. She's like, oh my God, I am not cute. I am not the kind of girl that has great hair and loves being on camera. None of that. And I felt like it was like this conversation where I was like beating a wall. I was like, come on, Kara, it's okay. You can do it. Carla. She got her first lead on a post that got the least amount of likes on her entire profile, because it was value series, right? Which is the businessy stuff. Everyone's like, why does my engagement so low on these? And I just said, Carla, keep putting that content out. It is so good that it will matter, right? And she got her first lead off of that. And somebody sent her a DM saying, I just want to let you know that I called your office today asking for you specifically, and I don't want to work with anyone else in your office. I just want to work with you. And yes. I as her coach and as someone who just loves her as a person, could not be more proud of the fact that she didn't get deterred by low likes. She didn't get deterred by feeling like nobody was listening. She said, I know that this is going to work. And even though I got 4 likes, it doesn't matter, because one of those 4 ended up being that guy that bought multiple properties with her. And because she's in commercial real estate, we're talking a lot bigger deals than most.
Hell yeah. So that's it. That's what it's all about. And congratulations for both of those, because I think that goes to show that the proof is in the pudding. You put in the work, you follow the plan. And those are 2 individuals that didn't want to do the social media the way that you were, recommending, did it.
Yeah.
and the biggest piece that I love is that the likes didn't matter, right? Because we get our heads wrapped around, well, how many people liked it? Trust me, people are seeing it. And it doesn't matter how many likes you get. It just takes one to resonate with to get to the next deal.
Yep.
And so, how do people get in touch with you that want to hire you and want to work with you or do a consultation with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way is on Instagram. That's what I always tell people, Berman Media Social. And I'm sure we could probably put that in the show notes or in the comments or something. Most people spelled my last name wrong, which is surprising, or my maiden name now, I should say. But Berman Media Social is the easiest way. Just shoot me a DM and say, hey, I'd love to connect with you, whatever. In the link in my bio, you guys will be able to register for my free masterclass, which covers the 4-part framework of the Instagram Power Method. And it goes over the 3 big mistakes that most of you guys listening are probably making without knowing that you're making them. So I kind of go into all of that. And then you'll also learn what the 2 opportunities are as far as cost is concerned of being part of the Instagram Power Method program.
Awesome. And then you and I did our first podcast together. I say first because we'll do it again, but we did our first. It just launched today on Apple and Spotify, really anywhere you can get a podcast on. Those are the 2 most popular. So I'm going to add those links in In the comments, I'll also add your information on how to get in touch with you, your Instagram handle. But thank you so much for doing this. And I want to continue to do more and more activities with you. And, let's do some more of this. I want to get you in front of my team very soon here, because I do think that there's a big opportunity there. I'm like trying to grab everybody and get them into social. And there's some people that really need to be on, because it's like their jam. If they could just do what you're telling them to do, I think they will see their business explode. And so, thank you, Michelle, for doing this with me. And I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for coming on.
Of course, my pleasure. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of your time, and just thanks for being such a fan. And I'm a huge fan of you, and I think that we got a lot of awesome things in the works.
Thank you so much. And you know how I feel about you. So good luck with everything, and we'll be talking soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Bye-bye.